Good afternoon. Today is January 16th. Welcome to the Ways and Means Committee. And we have a briefing today by the Department of Commerce. And Secretary Kevin Anderson is gracing us with his presence. Happy New Year. Great to see you again. Welcome back. And I will let you take it away. Whatever you guys have, you can introduce yourselves and your team, and then we'll have questions after.
Well, good afternoon. Chair Atterbury, Vice Chair Wilkins, and members of the Ways and Means Committee, thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. For the record, I'm Kevin Anderson, Secretary of the Maryland Department of Commerce, and I'm joined today by Deputy Secretary for Innovation and Growth, Ricardo Ben, Deputy Secretary for Business Attraction and Special Projects, Stephen Rice, and our Managing Director of Policy, Research, and Government Affairs, Jennifer Lahat. All right. You'll hear a bit more from them later in our presentation. But today, we're going to present an overview of the work of the Department of Commerce and the collective work of the state to strengthen Maryland's economy and ensure that this is Maryland's decade. This will cover the challenges that our state's facing and the steps we've already taken and some of the proposals that the governor is putting before the legislation this session. Go to the next slide. Before we discuss the challenges the state's facing, I want to start by making clear that there are amazing things happening in Maryland. We attribute this success to the partnership and collaboration between the administration and the General Assembly, as well as all of our local partners. In the past 2 years, we've seen numerous attraction expansion wins, and these are just a few of them. These companies are investing hundreds of millions of dollars in our state and creating hundreds of new jobs. Maryland was ranked the number one state for minority business by LendingTree. In the past 2 years, we've made significant investments through our financing and tax credit programs that have supported 18,319 jobs. And our support for tourism, one of our strongest economic drivers, helped generate $37 million in hotel revenue this past spring and summer. Governor Moore announced his proposed FY26 budget yesterday, which included significant investment in economic growth. This includes funding for several of our established, tried and true programs, including $6 million for the Maryland Manufacturing 4.0 program, $10 million for the Build Our Future grant program, and $10 million for our Child Care Capital Loan program. It also funds several new initiatives we'll be touching on shortly. But the state is facing serious budget challenges this year, as we all know. But continuing to invest in economic growth is essential to the health and success of our economy. But before we get into the details of the administration's agenda to grow our economy and make us more competitive, I want to highlight some of Maryland's most important assets. These represent the foundation on which we want to build. We have a very strong federal presence with the focus on science, technology, and medicine. We also have a robust military presence and infrastructure. These facilities are not only major employers and economic drivers, but they advance innovation in key fields like aerospace, the life sciences, and information technology. Maryland produces talent that supports the mission of these installations inside and outside the gate. And we also deliver an excellent quality of life for service members. And our strategic location is a major asset. We're an overnight drive of 1/3 of the U.S. population. Our transportation infrastructure includes airports, road and rail, and the Port of Baltimore. And we offer easy access to New York City, Philadelphia, and Washington, D.C. And we have world-class research institutions, including the University System of Maryland and Johns Hopkins University, each of which is linked to a major health system. And we have 4 HBCUs and a network of 17 community colleges. These are not only producing our highly talented workforce, but they help Maryland attract top talent. And finally, our world-class workforce is one of our greatest assets. We are top ranked for tech workforce growth and highly ranked for a degree of attainment in our talent pipeline. Maryland produces some of the brightest and most innovative minds in the world. But in short, Maryland's economy should be thriving, and we've got all the right ingredients, but yet we're not where we should be. Here's how we compare in GDP growth to our neighbors and peers over the past 8 years. If our GDP growth had kept up, would we be facing the same budget challenges we're facing today? Well, perhaps not. One of the challenges we've been facing is negative domestic migration. Marylanders are moving to other states. We've seen positive international migration, people coming to Maryland from abroad, and that's important. But only 38% of our STEM graduates remain in Maryland when they graduate. Maryland needs to be generating economic opportunities that will keep these graduates here so they can build companies here, pursue their careers here, and raise their families here. So what then are the goals and strategies before us, and where do we need to focus our attention and investments? We must create a robust, competitive, and equitable economy in which all Marylanders can succeed and build wealth. As the governor likes to say, the goal is to create work, wages, and wealth. The Moore Miller administration wants to do that by, one, streamlining government assets and operations, investing in key industries, improving our business climate, and increasing our economic development capabilities. And we're going to break down each of these points one by one. So first, we've made some organizational changes at the Maryland Department of Commerce, including expanding our leadership team. We've split our business development operation into 2 focused units. Ricardo Ben is leading our Innovation and Growth Unit, which oversees the Office of International Investment and Trade, the Office of Military and Federal Affairs, and the Office of Strategic Industries. This unit works to develop and implement strategies to foster innovation and entrepreneurship within our state. Assisting Ricardo in this effort is our new Assistant Secretary, John Gilstrap. Stephen Rice is leading our Business Attraction and Special Projects Unit. This unit, which oversees our regional reps as well as our finance and business attraction teams, will play a vital role in developing and executing initiatives to attract businesses to Maryland, promoting the retention and expansion of existing companies, and managing special projects that drive economic growth. And we also need to modernize our economic development toolbox. For more on that, I'll turn things over to our new Deputy Secretary, Mr. Ricardo Ben.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Good afternoon, Madam Chair and committee members. We want to make sure our economic development toolbox is tightly focused on the goals and priorities we've outlined. This means we've needed to think critically about what works, what doesn't, and what the data really tells us. We've identified several programs and entities that are underperforming, no longer aligned with our goals, or have served their purpose, and we're proposing a plan to sunset those. First is the Job Creation Tax Credit. This program has become overly complicated with different minimum thresholds based on a business's location. This is burdensome for both businesses and commerce staff. More importantly, it is not at all clear that this program effectively incentivizes business behavior. It's not helping to create jobs, and given the state's ongoing fiscal challenges, we believe that it should be repealed. Next is the One Maryland Tax Credit Program. This is another program with shifting minimum thresholds for job creation based on where the business is located. And it's another program that we do not believe is a significant incentive to job creation. Our assessment aligns with the 2022 DLS analysis of the program, which also noted that One Maryland is duplicative of other state and federal incentive programs. We would also like to repeal the Employer Security Clearance Costs Tax Credit. This one we've thought carefully about because it's a popular program and is usually fully subscribed. But it lapsed in fiscal 2024, and we didn't see any immediate consequences. The data that we have indicate that while businesses may use it, it's not working as an incentive. By repealing it, we can save $2 million in fiscal 2026 and focus on programs with a clearer return on investment. We would also like to sunset the Maryland Industrial Financing Authority, or MIDFA. This entity promotes investment through the issuance of bonds and increasing access to capital for small and medium-sized companies, as well as rural and historically disadvantaged businesses. But there was low activity in fiscal 2024 and fiscal 2025. We also feel that this function can be better performed by MEDCO, which is better aligned with the goals of that agency. We would also like to sunset the Maryland Economic Adjustment Fund. This program is designed to provide loan funding to small and underserved businesses. However, this program has been underutilized. In fiscal 2024, $1.8 million was allocated, but only $75,000 provided to businesses. Eliminating this fund will allow us to deploy those funds elsewhere. Finally, we would like to sunset certain entities, starting with Commerce's subcabinet, which is being reconfigured as the Governor's Economic Competitiveness Subcabinet. We're also proposing to sunset the Maryland Economic Development Commission, or MEDC. While those serving on the commission have been hugely helpful, we believe this body is no longer necessary for economic development in Maryland, and its function in guiding the state's effort can be best served by the Economic Competitiveness Subcabinet. We thank all of our MEDC members, past and present, for their service to the state. Lastly, we would like to repeal the MEDAF Authority and the MISBIDFA Authority, which means the Commerce Secretary will be responsible for approving the assistance provided through these programs. We feel that this change will streamline the use of these tools. Building on our past to win in the future requires strategic focus. To be clear, when we say strategic focus, this does not mean we will be turning our back on businesses or industry sectors outside of this focus. Commerce's mandate is to support the entire economy, and we will always be here to help Maryland businesses, small and large, across industry sectors. We will, however, be providing additional targeted support to subsectors with high potential for growth. We know that Maryland excels in the fields of life sciences, technology, and aerospace. We have significant federal, military, and higher education assets in these areas, and we've made long-term commitments to support these areas. But we need to climb the next mountain, and to do that, we need to refine our focus. There are 3 subsectors in these areas: computational biology in the life sciences, quantum in technology, and position navigation and timing in aerospace. In these areas, we can leverage and build on our existing assets like the Quantum Research Hub in College Park, the Life Sciences Hubs in Baltimore and the I-270 corridor, and our military and federal aerospace assets like NASA Goddard. Let's dive a little bit deeper. Quantum is particularly critical to cybersecurity and cryptography, advanced research, and secure communication, space exploration, artificial intelligence, and the life sciences. It also has the potential to impact businesses and our lives in ways we can't foresee yet. Maryland's quantum assets include the University of Maryland College Park, the National Institutes of Standards and Technology, the U.S. Naval Research Laboratory, and NASA Goddard. A few days ago, Governor Moore, the University of Maryland, and IonQ, a leading quantum computing company headquartered in College Park, announced the Capital of Quantum initiative. This initiative will spur $1 billion in private, state, federal, and university investments over 5 years, with $27.5 million proposed for the initiative in the governor's budget proposal. This exemplifies the type of opportunities for leveraging partner investment to grow Maryland's economy across our lighthouse industry sectors. Position navigation and timing is a key capability for unmanned aerial vehicles, advanced air mobility, marine navigation, satellite communications, and space exploration. Our existing assets in this sector include NASA Goddard, Johns Hopkins Applied Physics Laboratory, and companies like Northrop Grumman and Lockheed Martin. Computational biology represents the intersection of medicine, advanced mathematics, and data analysis. This can guide drug discovery, cell and gene therapy, population health, biomanufacturing processes, and advanced agricultural techniques. Our assets in this field include the National Institutes of Health, Johns Hopkins University and its health system, the University System of Maryland, and the University of Maryland Medical System. and our community of life sciences companies centralized in Baltimore and along the I-270 corridor. Supporting these core areas is essential to Maryland's future growth. As Governor Moore has said, for decades, Maryland's economy is focused on the feds, the eds, and the meds. And this strategic focus will allow us to build on that foundation more effectively. We are still committed to economic inclusion. We will still be actively looking for new opportunities to support small, minority, women, and veteran-owned businesses. But we believe there is a multiplier effect of growth in these key sectors that can produce growth across our economy. Thank you, and I would like to turn it back to Secretary Anderson.
Great. Thank you so much, Deputy Secretary Ben. Now we're going to look at the slide in the space of business, our business climate. We're now going to discuss efforts to improve Maryland's business climate. And in a moment, I'll turn things over to Deputy Secretary Stephen Rice. Stephen's unit leads Commerce's business attraction and retention efforts. His team includes our regional representatives and our industry experts, among others. They have direct contact with our business community, and we need to make sure they are armed with the best tools we can give them. Deputy Secretary Rice.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary, and thank you to the committee for giving me this opportunity. I'd also like to take a point of personal privilege and say hello to Delegate Ebersol, who taught me calculus at Wild Lake High School. We won't discuss my grades. That would be welcome. So we're taking several steps to make Maryland more welcoming, and we're looking to change the perception of the Maryland business climate. In December, the governor's executive order created the Governor's Office of Business Advancement, or what we like to call GOBA. Now, GOBA's job is to provide a white glove concierge service for priority or marquee business attraction or retention projects. The goal is to provide first-class customer service that makes it easier for these projects to come to fruition. Now, GOBA is going to be housed within the Department of Commerce and specifically within my division, and it is going to be led by Mr. Luis Cardona. Now, Luis is right here. Please stand up, wave, bow. We're really excited that Luis is here. We think this is a needed initiative, and it positions us very well to be successful. So the executive order also calls for better collaboration between state and local economic development organizations. There are three components to this. They include marketing, branding, and strategy. Essentially, if we can align the state and the local economic development organizations, we'll be better positioned for success. We're planning to use the newly created Governor's Economic Competitiveness Subcabinet as the convener to bring the state's various economic development organizations together, better coordinate our efforts, evaluate specific opportunities, and continuously evaluate the effectiveness of our various programs. Our #1 goal is to build robust economic communities across the entire state of Maryland. The executive order also establishes a loan executive program at Commerce. This is an innovative way to partner with the private sector to bring cutting-edge best practices to Commerce and to develop strong working relationships with the private sector. Earlier this week, Governor Moore introduced several proposals that also address our business climate. The governor's bills call for the enhancement of Commerce's child care loan program. And the goal here is essentially to increase the availability of child care in our state. There's a lot of evidence and a lot of data that shows that child care challenges inhibit growth. So we want to do what we can to eliminate those barriers and achieve that growth. The governor's proposal will also expand MEDCO's tax increment financing powers. So MEDCO, of course, is the Maryland Economic Development Corporation, and this will help encourage companies to invest in the state and drive growth. It will also help us create more jobs. I also want to take a note to talk about a component of the governor's proposed budget that will also impact our business climate. the administration wants to lower the corporate tax rate by instituting Water's Edge combined reporting, essentially closing a significant loophole. Now, Maryland's corporate tax rate has historically been cited as an obstacle to business growth and attraction, so we believe this sends a strong message to the business community that we are committed to proactively supporting their success. Okay, next slide, thank you. A couple of other things. The administration is proposing additional changes to the state's economic development toolbox. Now, as a career economic developer, this makes me really excited. First, we would like to convert the Sunny Day Fund into a new strategic closing fund. Now, historically, this fund was not located within the Department of Commerce. It was focused primarily on retention projects, and it was significantly undercapitalized. With your support, we'd like to change all of that. We would like to locate the fund within the Department of Commerce. We want to focus the fund's resources on business attraction to bring more businesses to the state. And we would like to invest $25 million into the fund to facilitate its success. The administration is proposing changes also to two of our small business assistance programs, Ms. BIDFA and SMWOBA, also known as the VLT Fund. Now, these changes include redirecting on an annual basis approximately $10 million in casino revenue from the VLT Fund to Ms. BIDFA. This will address an historic, I'll say a history of underfunding of the Ms. BIDFA program, so this is a very good thing. We would also like to repeal the Maryland Small Business Development, or Ms. BIDFA, authority so that future transactions within this program would actually only need the approval of the secretary. The way that it's currently structured, you have to go to the authority for transactions to be approved. We would essentially be streamlining these efforts to make it more nimble, more flexible, and more efficient, and we think more effective. In addition, we would like to increase the maximum financial assistance amount within Ms. BIDFA, and in our new plan, half of the annual Ms. BIDFA allocation would be reserved for targeted industry sectors that would be designated by the Secretary of Commerce. Finally, we would like to rename Ms. BIDFA, the program, to the Maryland Economic Inclusion Fund. We think that better encapsulates the purpose of this fund and its mission. We'd also like to rename the VLT Fund to the Reinvest for Success account. Again, better aligning the naming with the mission of the program. The governor's bill also makes a critical change to the MEDEF program, which is also known as Advantage Maryland. This is really key. It removes the requirement that local governments must provide a 10% match to state awards, and this will make the program much more flexible, and it significantly provides more support for projects in jurisdictions that have limited resources. We would also like to rename this program to the Economic Competitiveness Fund. Now, the new proposals and the recent executive order from the governor also make some changes to our partner organization, MEDCO, again, Maryland Economic Development Corporation. The executive order establishes, and this is really exciting, a certified sites program at MEDCO. Now, MEDCO essentially will find readily available sites, bring various partners together to invest in those sites, and provide them with the infrastructure necessary to bring these sites online. So when we're out trying to attract businesses to Maryland or encourage businesses in Maryland to expand, we essentially have parcels that are move-in ready. The proposed budget includes $7 million for this program. The administration would also like to move the RISE Zone program that's currently part of the Department of Commerce to MEDCO, because this program is focused on economic development infrastructure, and that's more aligned with what MEDCO does. And just for a little bit of background, the RISE Zone program is designed to spur investment and development around higher education and federal institutions. We're further proposing to make some changes to the requirements and the structure of the Rise Zone program to make it more effective. And this is very important because this is an important tool for advancing the innovation the innovation initiatives that Deputy Secretary Ben addressed a little earlier. So at this point in time, I'll kick it back to our fabulous secretary, and thank you again for this opportunity.
Fantastic. Thank you, Deputy Secretary Rice. So where do we go from here and what's next? This effort will require partnership and collaboration between the administration, the General Assembly, our institutions, and our local partners. Within the state government, this effort will involve multiple agencies, each with a clarified focus and a role in making our economy more competitive. The reconfigured economic competitiveness subcabinet will be a big part of this. Commerce, Medco, TEDCO, Labor, Planning, and DHCD are the principals. We'll also be relying on MHEC and the University System of Maryland to make sure our economic goals and educational opportunities are aligned. We will all be working together, and our responsibilities are clearly defined. So, Madam Chair and committee members, I know we presented a lot of information to you this afternoon, but there are some very serious choices before us. In the past, Maryland has taken what we call the peanut butter approach, spreading assistance and incentives evenly across the board. We did that for years, but it is no longer enough. We have to invest properly or we will not grow. The world has changed, the economy has changed, and our competition has changed. The 4 key strategies we've outlined today are how we're trying to change the way Maryland does business. And if we're going to attract the growth that Maryland needs, we need to evolve and we need to focus. The lighthouse sectors we've identified are a vital chance to build on our past success and make our state indispensable in these areas moving forward. We've already begun the process of aligning our resources and programs behind this goal. Collaboration with you this session is the next step. It positions Maryland to be as competitive as it can be. And we are grateful for the partnership and support of the General Assembly that it has given this administration. And we're hoping to extend that partnership so we can move the governor's growth agenda forward. We need your help. We can make this Maryland's decade if and only if we work together. Thank you all so much for your time. My team and I will now be happy to take questions. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, and we'll see if there are any questions. First, thank you all for being here today. Second, Mr. Secretary, I have to warn you, that guy over at TEDCO, he's pretty tricky. So you got to watch him. Delegate Wims.
Absolutely.
Chair, and thank you, Mr. Secretary and his staff for the great report. I just wanted you to dig down a little bit more in the aerospace, what we're doing in Maryland, what we plan to do over the next 6-7 years.
Well, again, you know, our lighthouse sector presents the opportunity for us to do what strong governments and good, effective business people do, and that's to make very clear strategic decisions and assessments about where we want to invest. We've established the Maryland Aerospace Technology Commission, and that's to make sure we position ourselves in a great way to develop the ecosystem. And I think the strongest way that we do that is what we've picked out in our position, navigation, and timing. So when you see that opportunity, that's one area and one subsector by which we can concentrate and begin to scale and be able to grow. And so that's what we'll be able to do in the aerospace sector. I think we all know, again, it's yet another wildly rich asset that we have to make sure we position well, invest in well, and grow. Mm-hmm. And so those are some of the very important things that we want to do. And then ultimately, you know, you'll see the outcome in the results as the ecosystem develops and spawns. It'll create small businesses, will attract investment as we need to, and trigger and become the force multiplier for a very, very strong system that can scale. And it's not about activity, it's about making sure we invest enough and we manage well enough so it can grow and we can move the needle. So those are some of the things that we'll be working on, and we've aligned for investments.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Delegate Roberts.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for the presentation, and good to see you. Secretary and everybody. Just wanted to a quick question about the minority business programs that you have, and also when it comes to GOBA, the newly formed office. Do you already have strategies laid out for how you're going to help? I mean, is the responsibility, first, let me just say, of this initiative or this new office going to also help to help minority businesses grow, or do they already have to be very well established? What's the level of assistance for them?
Yeah, I have to be sensitive about hogging the mic, so Deputy Secretary Rice. Okay.
So just to be clear, GOBA will support any business that reaches out or that is referred to the office. And so to answer your question specifically, it will support minority businesses. And we're not limiting GOBA to businesses that will provide an outsized economic impact, but primarily that will be its focus. We want to make sure that large projects that will spur significant economic development and drive our job growth, drive our economy, that whatever barriers there are to those projects being successful, it will be Luis's job to help eliminate those barriers and facilitate that success. That being said, support for minority businesses is also something that Luis will do and has been doing since he started.
Okay. And with that, because you said a lot of really great things in terms of the different sectors of industries, I should say, industry sectors, do you have any kind of breakdown of the number of, say, minority businesses in any of those sectors? And if they're very low, which I would imagine, how can we grow those areas?
So we're currently doing some research to get some better numbers on that. But the goal here, and the thinking is that these lighthouse sectors, if we can be successful within them, then it will provide growth across industries, and it will support minority businesses and other businesses as well. But we do want to be intentional and support minority businesses that are within these sectors and help them grow and scale and be successful. Absolutely.
And if I may, Delegate Roberts, it is the intention and the ultimate, not the ultimate, a very strong strategic goal that as we build our economy, and not only has to be competitive and not only has to be robust, but it has to be equitable. And the governor is very clear about that, and that's a goal that we set in. And part of building the ecosystem is make sure that we invest well, and then we create opportunities across the board. And as Madam Chair said, we have our friend from TEDCO behind us, a very well-established entity, to make sure that not only do we have a very, very strong infrastructure where we're #1 in the country of investing in and supporting minority, women, and veteran-owned businesses, but to be able to technically manage them and create it. And I think that's very important in leading the charge. We have to be very, very mindful. We want to make sure that it is at the forefront of making sure not only do we grow, but we grow well and we grow equitably. And that's making sure our small business, minority, women-owned, and veteran-owned infrastructure works very well. Because if we don't build it while we grow it, if we don't build it in the beginning, we'll be chasing it. And it's very, very important that we do that.
Thank you.
And if I may as well, we are committed to economic inclusion. We're very committed to that. And some of the changes to Ms. Bidfa that are being proposed, I think, bear that out and kind of illustrate that.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Delegate Wu.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Secretary, for presenting this. I really appreciate your department, TEDCO, and the governor supporting the INQ, the quantum computing effort. Personally, I programmed on quantum computer, either D-Wave or IBM or other Google quantum computer myself several years ago. I believe it's something not mature yet, but it takes time to mature and it can be very big. So I just want to make a few comments. It's not like waiting for your answer. Since it will be a long-term investment.
Delegate, we ask questions.
Okay, I'll put a question there. Thank you. So in general, this kind of area, like quantum computer, is a long-term investment. So it may take several decades or 10 years scale, right? So at the same time, state government, it's challenging, right? You may have different leadership, you may have different physical constraint from one year to another. And then you need to juggle around different priorities. How do we ensure this kind of investment can be, I really say, sustainable and can see the fruitfulness after a few years? Otherwise, we may make an investment this year, then next year gone. Then the effort may disappear.
Do you want to go? You want to? Let me. Okay, I'll let you go. Okay.
So to answer your question specifically around quantum, but it's also true of all of the lighthouse sectors that we've spoken about. Each of those is building on a strong existing base within the state of Maryland. And our focus is on understanding that the timeline to invest in some of these areas will take place over time. What's important about that is the ecosystem in each one of these areas that is being catalyzed as we move forward. So an area like quantum has many different subcomponents. There's quantum computing, the manufacturing component, the communication component, and each one of these areas is encouraging individual ecosystem of companies that will collaborate and work with each other. And I think we've already spoken about the fact that it's already supported by a very rich and diverse research infrastructure at the University of Maryland and other partners. So while we're placing bets in these lighthouse sectors that will grow, our focus is also in ensuring that the broader ecosystem continues to grow. One other factor that I would point out is that the growth of these sectors is not just limited to quantum. I pointed out a bit earlier that there are multiplier effects that will occur in the life sciences, in agriculture, in artificial intelligence, in cybersecurity, sectors where Maryland is already strong. So we are looking at those effects as well.
Thank you. My second question related to the, probably similar to what he said, it's kind of a cluster of industry, right? So you bring some anchor business in or innovation or technology, then you got a similar technology or business come together. So in that sense, you build a scale of that similar business, like quantum computer related manufacture or quantum computing itself or software, AI. At the same time, it's come back to the investment itself. It may dry up very quickly, or the government has limited resources. We made a first-year investment, then we're not continue that effort. Which kind of effort, like government investment, can work with private business investment come together and try to really ensure a long, sustained investment strategy?
Yeah. No, I'll offer some comments, and you may have some other thoughts. But my first perspective is that one of the explicit parts of our focus is to encourage public-private collaboration. We recognize that there are inherent limits to public participation, and the private sector, and also as evidenced by our partners, in particular TEDCO and MEDCO, have a role in this entire ecosystem. So our focus really is to stimulate growth and participate in the components that are appropriate to our role, but we also want to encourage private sector investment, encourage venture capital, encourage private equity investment in these areas as well.
Yeah. And Delegate, if I may, and again, for the committee, it's a great question, but maybe to get a clear example, this opportunity of investing and making sure that we can, for lack of a better word, own a sector and own an opportunity requires the attention and investment right now. I'll try to give an example. We all know and love Silicon Valley out in San Francisco. They have been working on microchips for a very long time, in the 60s and 70s, and they made very, very adequate investments that came and eventually spawned what everyone knows now is probably the most, effective, great system. And quantum computing is that opportunity for us with all of the risks that are there. But again, there was a term, no risk it, no biscuit. And you have to make sure that we have a very, very sharp pencil. The analysis that we've done and the opportunity that we have, if I may, and I know some of my technical folks will say, yeah, maybe, but with the relationship of IonQ, over a $1 billion capitalized company that's the leader in quantum, might I say that we have the Apple computer that Silicon Valley had, or we have some of the thinking and knowledge to be able to invest in, and now is the time to invest, to be able to take advantage of that for that sector.
Thank you very much for your vision and hard work. Really appreciate that.
Delegate Young.
Thank you, Madam Chair. One question, Mr. Secretary, thank you to you and your team for being here and for the presentation. Looking at the cybersecurity tax credit, which y'all know I got some interest in, I noticed that under the Decade Act, y'all going to be doing some changes to it, some updates, which I'm eager to see. We know how it's been really underutilized. One of the things that you all are changing is the qualified seller. You're changing it from 5 million to 10 million under that bill. Can you just talk to me about why you want to up that?
There we go. Yes. Thank you, Delegate. We had some meetings over the interim with the Cyber Association and discussed that particular credit, the Buy Maryland Cybersecurity Tax Credit. I just don't want to confuse things with the Innovation Incentive Tax Credit, which used to be the Cyber Investment Tax Credit. That was one of the items that their members had requested that we take a look at changing. In general, we've made a lot of proposed updates to that program, and I'm looking forward to meeting with you to go through all of those. But we're trying to expand the eligibility of the credit and therefore expand the usage of the credit so that it actually does become effective.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to just have a better sense on, it looks like less businesses will be available to sell. But we can talk offline.
Yeah.
But I appreciate you, and what I've seen so far from some write-ups makes me,
Yeah, I think, so we're actually, I believe, and I have to look again at the details, but I think what we're doing is increasing the cap to be able, so that more businesses can sell.
Okay, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, are there any other questions from the committee? Okay, seeing none, thank you all very much for being here today. Thank you. That concludes our briefing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.